Do you ever experience pain with your exercise and you're not sure how to proceed? Maybe you should continue and push through the pain, or maybe you should stop exercise altogether, or somewhere in between. This is an important question, and it's what we're talking about today. It's Brody and Ollie, and in this video, we're not just going to tell you what to do to make your strength exercise tolerable. We're going to show you exactly what we do whenever we experience pain with our resistance training in order to make it tolerable so that we can continue with the exercise and keep the gains coming.
Now, pain can be frustrating. One week you're exercising, you're pain-free and you're feeling strong, and then the next week you start getting some pain and it really wants to stop you in your tracks. But as Ollie said, we want to try and keep the progress and the momentum going. So here are 3 tips you can try to make the exercise tolerable so that you can continue. The first thing to try is reduce the weight that you are using for the exercise. The second thing to try is reduce the range of motion of the exercise. And then the third thing to try is finding a similar alternative exercise or just varying the movement a bit so that you can make it more tolerable.
Okay, they're nice simple points, but we think it's important to understand exactly how to implement them in your resistance training. So let's take a look at some examples. Okay, let's talk about how I might modify my deadlift. Now, the deadlift is a great exercise for building strength, but it can sometimes make my back a little bit sensitive, particularly if I've had a really challenging deadlift session in the last few days. So the first step, I always try to reduce the weight and see if that makes it more tolerable. But what I find is that when my back is particularly sensitive, anything where I'm bending right over is going to cause me some pain and some symptoms that'll stop me from continuing the exercise. So what I often find I prefer to do is actually to increase the height from which I'm lifting. So if I get some blocks like these ones that I've prepared earlier, and then I can do my deadlift from a raised height, which means I don't have to bend over into that position, which is really aggravating for my symptoms. And then a combination of the raised height and the lighter weight means that I can continue with my deadlift exercise.
So I often do overhead presses seated in a chair with dumbbells like this. And sometimes my right shoulder, which I injured a long time ago playing rugby, plays up a bit, gets a little bit sore. And so whenever I'm having one of those days or weeks where that right shoulder's just not tolerating that pressing so much, I just go to a lighter weight. It's quite simple. It's an easy change to make. So instead of those 7 kilo dumbbells, I'll grab these 4s, give that a go. And usually just reducing that weight a little bit means it's tolerable and I can continue pressing, and then hopefully next week I can up the weight again.
Okay, there's 2 good examples of modifying your resistance training to make it more tolerable so that you can continue. Let's take a look now at another example where we've used a combination of all 3 options in order to make exercise manageable.
So another one of our physios, Jack, recently hurt his shoulder while doing jiu-jitsu, and also he has some ongoing hip pain he's been dealing with. He was going to do some squats, but because of the shoulder, he couldn't hold the bar on his shoulders as he normally would, and because of the hip, he couldn't squat down as low. So let's take a look at how he put together all 3 of those options to make his squatting tolerable.
Okay, let's take a look at Jack performing his squats. So as Brody mentioned, Jack had some shoulder pain, which meant he couldn't hold onto the bar. And he's using the safety bar, which means that it's more comfortable for him to hold onto it so that he can continue squatting. The other thing, Jack's been experiencing some hip pain. So what he's done is reduce the depth of his squat. He's not going down quite as low, and that's made it more manageable for him. And lastly, he's taken that first option and reduced the weight. This is quite often one of the best ways that you can make exercise more tolerable, and Jack's found that to be the case with his squats.
Okay, so we hope you got lots of useful info in seeing our examples of exercise modification. Remember, those 3 modification strategies you can try are 1, reduce the weight of the movement, 2, reduce the range of motion of the movement, or 3, find a similar alternative exercise.
And if you find that none of that works for you and you've tried it over a couple of weeks, you can always just leave out that particular exercise for a week or 2. But usually we find that you can find an alternative exercise to allow you to continue loading that area of your body. And if you're interested in seeing some ways to modify your at-home exercise program, you can check out our free at-home strength workout, and the link is in the description below. See you later.